They said human beings could teleport. That was the headline, a breakthrough in quantum translocation. No vessels, no fuel, no light, years between. Just one thought, one surge of particle realignment, and a human body could vanish from Earth and reappear on the moons of Jupiter or at the edge of the Kuiper belt. But they were wrong, or perhaps they were right in ways too abominable to ever understand. Captain Zarrar remembered the press conference in Paris. The glow of optimism smeared across the face of Dr. Helia Quain, the leading mind behind Project Orpheus, as she declared the dawn of humanity's second genesis. Her voice trembled as she spoke of how the teleportation field was born not from force or fire, but from coherence, quantum harmonics aligning matter across unfathomable distances, woven into place by equations that trembled on the brink of understanding. And yet, in that trembling, no one saw the abyss flexing its fingers behind the veil. The crew of the UNS Tarkane, a sleek lattice of obsidian alloy and neural matrices, was chosen as the first to test deep-range human teleportation. Captain Zarrar stood at the helm, hand hovering over the authorization panel, his mind flickering with apprehension. The destination, a black dwarf orbiting a silent star 5,000 light-years from Earth, a place no probe had ever reached, but where the field resonance had shown inexplicable coherence, a target of eerie perfection. The moment the sequence activated, Zarrar felt his spine burn with electric frost, as if unseen fingers plucked each vertebra like keys on a shattered piano. Time bent inward, the universe blinked, and then everything was wrong. He emerged not into space, but into stillness, not the kind of silence born from emptiness, but a silence so dense it felt like pressure on his lungs. The Tarkane was intact, yet the system spoke in glitched tongues. Screens displayed unreadable glyphs pulsing in chaotic rhythms. His crew stood frozen mid-motion. Lieutenant Vasquez caught in the act of laughing, her eyes wide with unending mirth, a single tear rolling down her cheek that never fell. Zarrar's voice cracked in his throat, but it bounced back at him, warped and delayed, like something else was replying with his own words. Outside the ship's hull, the stars were gone. In their place loomed a tapestry of impossible structures, towers of light spiraling like tentacles, frozen nebulae arranged like eyes watching through time, a lattice of shifting voids that blinked and pulsed as if alive. Zarrar tried to command the engines, but every command looped into itself, each protocol spinning deeper into nonsense, the ship's AI murmuring things like he waits. The door has been noticed, your shape does not belong. With growing dread, he checked the crew's vitals, all alive, all unmoving. Their neural interfaces registered activity, but of an alien pattern, an architecture of thought no human mind could produce. And somewhere beneath that data, buried in machine code, was a message repeated in every language known to Earth. Not here, not now, you bleed wrong. Desperate, Zarrar accessed the external comms. He sent out distress signals, even knowing the laws of relativity made such cries pointless. Then a return ping, a response, but not from Earth, not from any human channel. It was a frequency soaked in distortion, carved from guttural sounds that twisted his cognition like wet clay. The words weren't spoken. They emerged directly into his brain, not as sound, but as presence. It asked him if he had seen the skin yet. It asked if he knew what he looked like when not dreaming. It laughed not with joy, but with the absence of meaning, like a scream deconstructed into syllables of agony. In the hours, days, years that followed, Zarrar wandered the ship alone, the only moving thing in a world grown stale and alien. His crew decayed without rotting, their flesh still alive, their minds somewhere else. He watched as Lieutenant Vasquez's smile deepened until her jaw cracked. He screamed into the void of the galley as Ensign Brecht began bleeding black mist from his eyes. He touched the walls, and they pulsed like veins. The ship was becoming something else, or perhaps it always had been. The teleportation had not taken them to a place, but to a perception. The coordinates had bent not space, but the observer. The Tarkane and everything aboard it were now shaped by a place that did not obey causality, distance, or thought. And the place, this construct of glass and hunger, began to notice him. One night, or what passed for night, Zarrar dreamt of Earth. He saw himself walking the streets of Mumbai, unnoticed by the living. He tried to touch a child and watched her implode into ash. Then the world peeled back, and beneath it was not dirt or bedrock, but faces, billions of them, stretching to infinity, screaming not in fear, but in unison, as if their collective terror had become a form of worship. One face, vast and wet with forgotten oceans, turned toward him and whispered, "They do not teleport. They are collected." When he awoke, he found the Tarkane had changed. Hallways had grown longer. Doors led to the same rooms over and over, but each version increasingly decayed. Sometimes his own body was found in these versions, hung from the ceiling or crucified on rusted bulkheads, or smiling at him with hollow sockets. The truth sank in slowly, like frostbite in marrow. The teleportation field had not transported him. It had unfolded him, and in unfolding him, the universe had read every secret, every cell, every sin. Now it played with those parts, assembling and disassembling him across possible spaces that only mimicked reality because he needed the illusion to remain sane. It was not travel, it was display. Then came the voices of his crew. One by one they began to speak, not with their mouths but with the walls. Vasquez's voice echoed from the ventilation shafts, asking him why he didn't follow. Brecht's voice came through the drain in the floor, telling him how beautiful the void was, how warm. And sometimes he heard his own voice, from behind him, in front of him, inside him, begging to be killed. Zarrar tried to end it. He found the emergency incinerator, crawled inside, and activated the burn cycle. But instead of fire, it was light, and the light spoke. It showed him images of Earth, crumbling, eaten not by war or climate, but by silence. People standing still in the streets, their eyes bleeding starlight, the sky cracking into recursive shapes, a child drawing fractals into the air with her finger until her body unraveled into golden thread. The field had worked. Humanity had learned to teleport, but what they arrived at was not the stars. It was the attention of something older than time, something that did not see life as unique, but as texture. A sound, a smell, and now Earth was a scent remembered by the void. Zarrar, burning in light, did not die. He awoke back on the bridge, his skin shimmering with equations that slithered when he blinked. Time no longer moved in one direction. Past memories repeated in new ways. His childhood dog speaking in tongues, his mother's face melting into static. He understood then that teleportation had not failed. It had succeeded perfectly. It had allowed the human mind to touch something it was never meant to. And now, every human who teleported became a beacon, a call to that which dreams in static and bleeds in patterns. The black dwarf had been the eye, the Tarkane had been the knife, and he was now the message. He tried to record this truth, tried to send a final log to Earth, but the systems only played laughter. His own, looped and pitch shifted into something predatory. He smashed the controls, no effect. He opened the airlock, no release. The void outside welcomed him with warmth. Stars blinked back into existence, but in the wrong places. Galaxies shaped like mouths, planets orbiting nothing. Then he saw them, versions of himself. Countless Captain Zarrars drifting in space, some screaming, some fused into alien machines, some worshipping the dark shapes that floated between dimensions. One looked at him, nodded, and dissolved. He had become a constant, a shape that persisted across all failed dreams of humanity's ascension. He was now encoded into the teleportation field itself. Every time someone used it, a shadow of him followed. A whisper, a reminder. Humanity had discovered not movement, but invitation, a call to something that had waited behind time's curtain for minds foolish enough to knock, and now the knocking never stopped. In the final days or seconds or eternities, Zarrar stopped trying to escape. He wandered the infinite versions of the ship, collecting pieces of himself, assembling memories into a form that almost felt whole. He stood on a version of the bridge that overlooked an ocean of stars shaped like tears, and he wept, not for what he had lost, but for what humanity had never understood. That to observe is to change, and to change is to be seen. And once seen, the eyes never close. If you listen now, truly listen in the deepest silence, you may hear him in the static between transmissions, in the pause between thoughts. asking you a question with no answer, whispering, "Do you still think teleportation is travel, or is it surrender?" This is Dark Universe Files, and this was Captain Zarrar's story. But remember, some truths are not meant for knowing. Some doors were never meant to open. And when you stare into the void, do not be surprised if it grins. Because in the end, the real horror is not that humans can teleport, but that they did, and something answered,